Mr. Chair, I rise to take a short call on this, the Committee of the Whole House, on Part 2 of this bill. Mr. Chair, we've put forward a supplementary order paper to attempt to extend this tax credit, the parental tax credit, not just to the extensions that are included in the bill, but to extend it to all families, and particularly those who are on low incomes, the lowest incomes, those who are on benefits, those who are students, those who are currently excluded from this scheme. Mr. Chair, every family suffers the financial burden of a newborn child. There are costs associated with it. They include things like the equipment, cots, prams, nappies, and each of these stresses is felt by every family that has a newborn. So the tax credits for the first 8 weeks, or in this case now 10 weeks, makes a significant difference. But it makes more of a difference for those families who are the poorest because they are less resilient. This part of the bill and these provisions around the tax credit, by excluding the poorest of our families, those who are on benefits, by excluding them, this government is punishing the babies of the poor. It's basically saying, we will start your life out by discriminating against you. And this is unacceptable. This morning, sir, I attended with several of the colleagues in this House, we attended the post-budget breakfast that was put on for us by the Public Health Association and the Child Poverty Action Group. They'd done an assessment of the budget. One of the things they had said was that this budget does nothing to raise those 285,000 children out of poverty. And what they said, and I'll quote, was that the real value of working for families continues to decline because of failure to properly index payments, rising abatement rates and a reducing threshold. So fewer people are being able to access it. It's worth less because the cost of living is rising. And I was alarmed, actually, to find out from one of the speakers this morning that New Zealand has the second lowest wages in the OECD countries, just above Iceland. And that's shocking. How can people rise out of poverty when this is the situation? And this budget does nothing to alleviate that. Mr. Chair, this government is picking the winners and the losers. This government is spending in this budget around about 50% of their income, 50.1% I think, on superannuation. And it's a clear indication of where this government is directing their policies. And is it, if I'm going to be cynical, is it because people who are receiving superannuation are voters, whereas the babies of the poorest families may not vote for the national government? I would suggest that this government has directed these policies towards those who will vote for them, and that's why this tax credit, the parental tax credit, applies to low and middle income families, not those who are the worst off in Aotearoa, New Zealand. Mr. Chair, I believe that we should be supporting our children out of poverty, because if we don't, we all pay the costs. And those costs are things like poor education outcomes, poor health outcomes. And we know that the health budget is one of the biggest that we have to deal with. It's a bottomless pit, as my colleague Kevin Haig, who's the spokesperson for the Greens, would say. So unless we do something to alleviate the costs associated with poverty by raising people out of those dire circumstances, then we're going to continue to keep paying for them. And it's the short-term thinking that gets me the most, I think. The fact that we're not thinking in terms of how our families will grow and how our communities will benefit if we invest now. It's a cynical budget, Mr. Chair. It focuses mainly on those who don't need it the most.
Simon O'Connor.
Move that the question be now put.
I'll hear Poto Williams.
Look, I want to pick up on a